The inaugural GT America powered by AWS season rolls into its first ever trip to America's National Park of Speed. Road America plays host to this multi-class championship in round 7. Make that round 9 of the season, coming off of a street festival in Nashville the last time out. Hello everyone, welcome to Wisconsin. My name is Ryan Marine, Calvin Fish alongside Amanda Busick in the pit lane, and it is a pleasure to have your company as we get set for 40 minutes of multi-class racing at one of the finest road racing facilities in the country. Calvin, great venue for this race and a fascinating lineup up and down the different classes. Championship definitely coming into perspective, but I want to start with the story on the outside of the front row, the return of Memo Gidley to top-level sports car racing. Great to see, along with the return of the Bentley Continental GT3.
Yeah, I think it's so cool to see Memo, who had such an outstanding single-seater career, ran in Champ Car for a number of years, including running for Chip Ganassi Racing, one of the top teams, of course, in our sport. Then turned his attention to sports car racing, but had a massive crash at the Rolex 24-hour race back in 2014, and just went through tremendous rehabilitation over the course of 3 years. But his desire for racing was never diminished despite that setback, and to see him back here and to be on pace, it's a pretty cool story.
Remarkable comeback for sure. We'll talk more about that throughout the course of the broadcast. But before we get to that, let's take a tour of this 14-turn facility with our Porsche track preview.
Hi, this is Jan Helen with the Porsche track preview here at Road America. Coming onto the front straightaway, getting ready to start a lap here at Road America. Long straightaway and a long ways from the start-finish line into turn 1. Always makes for a lot of good action at the start of the race. 6th gear, 162 mile an hour, down to 4th gear. Really fast turn 1 using all of that exit curb. Really fun corner. And then into turn 3, late on the brakes, down to 2nd gear, and then getting ready to set up for a really good exit onto that long back straightaway into turn 5. Getting ready to go under the bridge here, and this straightaway is all about setting up for a late deep braking into 5. Lots of good overtaking opportunities here. Hard on the brakes at the 200 sign. 6th gear all the way down to 1st, sharp left-hander, and then up the hill into turn 6. Very short tap on the brake here. Car gets really light on the exit of the corner, and then into turn 7, just a short lift, back to power, and then flat out down the hill into turn 8. Braking right at the 200, down to 2nd gear, using a little bit of that curb at the apex, and then ready to enter the carousel. Long sweeper right, 4th gear, really fast. Really fun here in this Porsche GT3R with all that downforce, and then exiting the carousel, setting up to enter the kink. Kink is one of those famous corners here in America. Really fast, 5th gear, 137 miles an hour at the apex, and then down into Canada corner. Braking's going to be right at the 300. Again, a good place to make some moves. Hitting that apex curb, and then again using all of that curb on the exit. And then setting up for Billy Mitchell, super fun corner, blind on the entry, and then using all that curb on the exit. Late on the brakes for turn 14, making sure we set up for a good exit, and then onto the front straightaway. And that was a lap here at Road America.
A truly fantastic venue, a great ride along with Jan Halen there. Whether you're in a GT3 car or a GT4 car, this is the place to be. And standing amongst the drivers is our Amanda Busick. We'll be hearing from her in just a moment. But first, Calvin, this grid, the mixed class nature of it, very much a throwback to the days gone by of Pirelli World Challenge.
Yeah, it is, and you're going to get that overlap occasionally between some slower cars in the faster class and the faster cars of the slower class, so that's always interesting. But plenty of room here to stretch your legs. We've got 3 spots where you got about a 4,000-foot stretch of flat-out raceway, but some very demanding corners as well. Long duration corners, some very tight right-handers, but big brake zones, and with those big brake zones come plenty of opportunity for overtaking. Lots of elevation change. You could see it with the onboard lap there with Jan Halen.
Such a great mix of machinery. With a great view of it is our own Amanda Busick.
And engines have fired down here, so we're just moments away from the race starting. But I want to go back to the race in Nashville. If you look at that weekend, while James Safronis did have a win, I think the overall winner of the weekend is Jeff Burton. And if you look at his performance of late, let's go back to the last 4 races. He has podiumed at every race of those weekends. I asked him where the consistency has come at. He said this team is just working really hard of it. They are testing not only 1 time, but 2 times ahead of some of these events. They did that specifically here at Road America. What he learned through those testing sessions, and he said simply how to drive this car. I've never driven a car like this until this season, and that's where my growth has occurred.
It's been a great season of growth for Jeff, no question about that. Thanks to Amanda for that update. Those big wins at Nashville have vaulted him into championship contention within the Masters class, but the man at the head of the Masters class is driving that Wright Motorsports Porsche, 3rd in line, Charlie Luck. Not only leading in the Masters class, Calvin, but also he's challenging for the overall championship.
Yeah, he's just been super consistent, very impressive. I actually stood by the side of the track yesterday for a couple of sessions and was just really impressed with how committed he is. Very much on the money in terms of these lines around the racetrack, how he applies the throttle coming through the corners. Just really has a lot of confidence right now, and Wright Motorsports are an excellent operation. They're giving Charlie a great Porsche to work with, and you know, he's looking at the overall lead right now. He's got that Masters class lead as well with 5 wins, and 3 times he's finished 2nd in the Masters. But I think he's got his eye on the big prize, and with that overall championship lead and the fact that George Kurtz is not competing here this weekend after an incident yesterday in practice, Jeff Burton is the guy who's giving chase, and as Amanda said, he's got a lot of momentum too, coming off 2 class wins at the Nashville Street Race. But very different scenery and scenario here. We've gone from a street circuit now to the 4 miles of open and very wide racing territory and landscape here at Road America.
Certainly that Reardon Racing team rounding into form, and plenty of form at the front of this field with James Safronis starting on pole. He edged out Memo Gidley by a mere 31 thousandths of a second for that pole. It will be GMG Racing Audi ahead of Flying Lizard Motorsports Bentley at the front of this field, but that's just the GT3 side of things. GT4 is remarkably close as well. Sean Quinlan weathered the storm. That BMW, maybe not the best package on the streets of Nashville. The opposite, though, very true here at Road America, because Quinlan is on pole by a fairly wide margin. However, it's a hornet's nest behind him.
Yeah, it's really tight, and you've got a bundle of different manufacturers represented in those front rows of the GT4 grid, but certainly the BMW has proven already today as the GT4 car to beat here at Road America. It just has really strong straightaway speed, and as we said, 3 times around this circuit, you're really stretching the legs on these cars. 4,400 feet run from turn 14 over the start-finish stripe down into turn 1, and there's 3,800 feet from the exit of turn 3 down the Marine Sweep to turn 5, and even from the exit of the carousel, about 4,000 foot run there. So it's almost like a track dyno in terms of demonstrating how much horsepower you have.
Jason Bell will start on the outside of the front row in GT4. He sits 3rd in GT4 class points coming into this weekend. He's had several podiums, but hasn't had that class win yet, Calvin. I'm sure he's anxious to get that done, and he's the next closest pursuer to Quinlan in that BMW.
Yeah, and he's going to be pushing hard, so we'll have to wait and see. I mean, at this stage of the game, I think it's all about getting back into your rhythm. Big break for many of these drivers, but here we go. Let's get back to action. Some of them competed at Nashville, but for others, it's been a big, big break since the rounds of VIR.
Audi versus Bentley in the front row. Memo Gidley, Flying Lizard Motorsports with TKO Motorsports about to bring the thunder once again, bringing that Bentley back into SRO America competition. The second row is all Porsches with Charlie Luck and Andy Wilczak making his return for the first time since Circuit of the Americas. The green flag comes early, and here comes James Safronis on the loud pedal quickly. Gidley now slotting in line right behind in that big old Bentley. Then it's side by side further back with Jeff Burton making moves, taking a peek to the inside in the silver and red Lamborghini.
Dascalo's around the outside there in the black and white machine, so he's trying to tuck back in there. Nice move there. He makes a move there on Charlie Luck and takes over 3rd position.
Great start from Dascalos from 6th on the grid, able to jump up into 3rd there in that opening sequence of corners. It's side by side further back. Kyle Washington in the white Porsche doing battle with Jason Harward in the brightly colored St. Louis Motorsports Lamborghini.
Everyone's starting to settle in here. Down into that big brake zone. Charlie Luck late on the brakes. Dascalo sweeps across there. Doesn't go to apex, gives him enough racing room. Everyone being pretty respectful here on this opening lap.
Charlie eager to get that position back, has to settle in for now. James Safronis has made good his escape at the front of this field. Memo Gidley slotting in second in the Bentley, and just behind Dascalos, the big mover in the early going, trying to hold off the points leader, Charlie Luck.
There aboard that silver and red Lamborghini. Trying to get the car tucked in. This is where the downforce really comes into play through this long sweeping carousel corner. When you're far and close behind, you lose that little bit of element of air getting to the nose and getting to the winged elements on these race cars, which doesn't give you the grip you're looking for. High-speed kick here, that 130 miles an hour approach. A little bit of oil dried down from an earlier incident today in the GT World Challenge event.
And quite possibly a problem in the Viper Club event that immediately preceded this race, because that's even more oil than we saw from the incident in the earlier race that you alluded to. So that is a treacherous part of the track for sure. Kyle Washington might be a bit off the pace here in this GMG Porsche number 32. We saw him go wide a few moments ago, and behind him it looks like Jason Bell has made the pass of Sean Quinlan for the lead in GT4.
32 machine back up to speed here, but he did look really slow accelerating off of Canada corner up towards the Billy Mitchell bend. So Fronis here through turn one, throwing it through there. Track limits will be observed there. There's some perpendicular white hash marks that you have to be certainly touching with these Pirelli P0 tires. There is Jason Bell. He has got the lead from Quinlan.
Dropping back here to the GT4 fight. Great start for Bell. As we talked about, he's hungry for that first win of the season. He's come close. He's been second on 2 occasions, had a further podium back in the season opener. Third in points coming into this weekend, chasing Sean Quinlan, who's, or well, and as far as the points are concerned, chasing Sean Quinlan, but out in front on the racetrack. Quinlan's had a nice, solid year, continuing that development that we've seen out of him over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, had that Sprint X championship win, he and Greg LaFouge back in 2019, and I think it really gave him a lot of confidence. Has always enjoyed his racing, but now he's really starting to get the seat time and gain the experience, and certainly the knowledge to how to handle these races in these pressure cooker situations.
And the driver running third should be entering with a lot of confidence as well. Chris Cognazzi got his first win of the season in the second race there at Nashville, did so from pole, and was able to hold off a number of challengers in that race on the very challenging street course there in Nashville. Despite not running at Sonoma, he's 5th in points and has put together a nice string of results here in recent rounds. Currently runs 3rd in GT4.
Yeah, and right behind him is Alex Welsh, who also had a win on the streets at Nashville. So he's got a lot of momentum with this new team that he's established this year. He said he went to Brad Kettler, long team Audi and Le Mans winning crew chief, and just said, give me the A team, put together a best package of guys and personnel you can, and he's feeling pretty confident about their long-term objectives and potential.
Jason Bell leading in GT4, but Sean Quinlan is stalking, and while he's doing so, let's check in with Amanda down in the pits.
Well, guys, I think you know how this goes sometimes during travel. You end up running into some of these drivers in the airport. Well, I happened to catch Jason Bell while we were in Atlanta, and we were just doing a quick little review on the Music City Grand Prix and that performance. But he said this is a track here at Road America where you really see the talent of the driver. You have to be aggressive at a track like this. So I'm really not surprised that Jason made that move on Quinlan. I think he's been thinking about this as he even headed into the weekend, guys.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. Nothing passive about Jason Bell. If there's an opportunity, he always goes for it. This is a problem for Adam Adelson, Premier Racing, the team, and this might explain why we're seeing the smoke off of that car. Big contact with the 89.
Yeah, that's Ross West there that he gone into. It didn't look like there was a big enough gap. Didn't really see how it exactly developed, but it looked like a pretty late move there, and consequently damage to the left front corner and tire potentially cut down.
Adelson appears to have gotten the worst of that contact as Schwest has continued on, albeit delayed somewhat. He's dropped back to 18th. The last car still running. Here is the battle for the GT4 lead. Sean Quinlan putting that BMW to work. We've seen all throughout the day the strength of the BMW, whether it's the M4 or the M6 GT3, in a straight line, and this Road America circuit with 3 long full throttle sections of at least 3,800 feet is perfect for the BMW platform.
Yeah, he's got a lot of time on the clock here, so he's settled in. They got a nice gap back there to their next nearest competitor, which is Cagnazzi right now. So just got to settle in here. Just look at Jason, look where he's placing the car, where he's vulnerable. And as we know, the BMW, you said, Ryan, has been very strong here on the straightaway. So you've got to think he's got at least 3 attempts per lap to maybe have a crack at the lead.
Well, for Quinlan, I think probably you would say Nashville was the worst weekend of the season for him, and that kind of goes a long way to describing how good of a season it's been for Sean, because he finished 3rd and 4th in those 2 weekends. Other than that, it's basically been podiums every single race, with the exception of the first race at Circuit of the Americas, where they didn't start on pole, but had some issues and ultimately finished in 11th. So Quinlan has been consistently the top performer in the GT4 class all season long, and now biding his time, trying to run down Jason Bell. Meanwhile, we jump up to the front of the GT3 field, where Sofronis leads Gidley by 1.5 seconds. But Jason Daskalos is falling into the clutches of Charlie Luck, who would dearly like to get that position back, because while Daskalos is not in the Masters class and Luck is now starting to think about an overall championship, and where you finish in the overall running order determines how many points are paid as far as that championship goes.
Yeah, and you'd think that Charlie would like to get around Jason here and gap himself a little bit further back to Andy Wilsock, who currently holds down the 2nd place in the number 460 Flying Lizard Porsche there. Great to see Andy back running here on a more consistent basis. So he's run a bunch of events over the years with the Flying Lizard squad, and he's really found a good home here. I think this is a good fit for him.
Yeah, he ran at Circuit of the Americas, got a class win and a runner-up in the Masters class, did Andy Wilsock, and I talked to him there. He said he's been running in some other series where maybe the competition level just isn't quite as high, and he's had a lot of success, but it feels empty when you know you haven't had to beat the best to have that success. And what he's found that he's enjoying, he said, I'm getting my butt kicked and I'm loving it. That was his talking point at Circuit of the Americas, and he kind of figured it out after that conversation, because he went on to win that day. But that goes to show the level of competition that these drivers seek out, as we see Charlie Luck take a peek up the inside of Jason Daskalos, but can't quite get close enough and has to back out.
Yeah, and just really smart decision there. I mean, he got the big run, got the draft, popped out, and got the track position down to the inside, but recognized he wasn't quite close enough. And Jason's not afraid to get side by side and rub some elbows, so he was going to have to fight for that position. As thought about it, decided to regroup here and have another go at him.
It's one of the cool parts of this GT America series, that Audi that we see Daskalos in. It's the same older generation Ultra model of the Audi R8 GT3, and James Sofronis is running that too. This is a championship that, among other things, provides a chance for those that own some of these older GT3 cars that you really can't run elsewhere, a chance to give them another life. And so much of the interest level has come from guys who own these cars, and they track them and they do track days or club racing, but want that pro environment, and this is what they get in GT America.
Yeah, and it's also a great marketplace for people who are hanging on to some of that older GT3 machinery, as that drivers suddenly see this as a viable championship to go and contest, and probably a ton of those cars at various locations around the country that would come for a relatively cheap song in terms of their price versus a new current evolution of GT3 machinery.
Already 10 minutes into this 40-minute affair. No pit stops here. Single driver multi-class racing at GT America, powered by AWS. We have had a change for the lead in GT4, with Sean Quinlan evidently making the pass on Jason Bell. So the championship leader back out in front. You can see it on the racetrack there. BMW ahead of Aston, and then back to that battle for third right behind.
Yeah, and this is at the point where Jason's just got to settle back in here. I'm sure Andrew Davis, his co-driver in Sprint X competition, is on the horn with him, just talking him through this. And for Sean, he's got Greg Leafouge, who's certainly one of the top pilots in our paddock in terms of his pace. With Stephen Cameron holding the reins on the team overall. Just a lot of experience there to lean on, and I think that's what you need, that calming voice, just talking you through these scenarios. And that's why it's such a great opportunity for these guys to get extra seat time, but also have their coach and co-driver and mentor alongside them here on a weekend.
Back to the battle at the front of the field, and a man who has overseen the Bentleys racing, not just in the States, but in Europe in recent years, also overseeing this program. Darren Law is with Amanda.
Ryan, that is exactly who we're standing with currently. And I was catching up with him on Mimo Gidley and being here this weekend. What do you think convinced Mimo to come out here and race in GT America? What do you think convinced Mimo to come out here and race in GT America?
He's been a racer for a long time, and he just got a great opportunity. A guy by the name of Dave Turtell, who owns TKO Motorsports, bought one of the Bentley race cars, and they've worked together for years, and he wanted to give Mimo an opportunity to drive the Bentley.
Out of the gate, the Bentley's right up at the top of the pack. Why do you say that?
The Bentley's actually great. We raced it for 3 years, worked with that program, and it's very good in the high-speed corners and the high-speed tracks, so this track really suits it. So it's been good for the Bentley.
Thank you, Darren.
You bet.
So for those who don't know, K-Pax Racing, which ran this Bentley in GT World Challenge America, but also GT World Challenge Europe last year. So the last several seasons, they've had experience running the Continental. They share a lot with Flying Lizard Motorsports, and that's what this car is running under that tent this weekend. They are distinct programs in a lot of respects, but Darren oversees both, and that experience that he brings and that some of the technical staff bring from previously running the Bentley to Flying Lizard really gives them a big leg up.
Quick spinning off here for Chris Gumprecht. That's coming out of turn 14, final corner on the circuit. He's obviously feels that he didn't get too much damage here. Let's see what happens. Just runs a little bit wide there, started to pinch the car as he got towards the exit, tried to look at the edge of the road and didn't want any part of it, and consequently just turned it around. That's where the experience comes in, and just kind of letting the car float out there. Just try and keep your hands straight if you do run off the road a little bit, but looked like he just elected to try and pinch it. Felt he was on the wrong arc and radius, maybe committed too much rolling speed through the apex.
No harm, no foul, and we drop back to this fight here. To be clear, talking about the K-Pax program running in Europe, the chassis that ran there were separate. This is the car that actually ran a couple of races last year here in the States. But K-Pax very involved in the GT World Challenge Europe side. Here we go, back to GT4. At the tail end of this train of cars is Rob Holland, and he's running very much in championship contention in GT4. He's at the back of this train and would love to make some inroads here. Talking to the team, they felt like if they could get on the podium this weekend with that Mustang, it would be a successful run for them. That's the goal. And they're a couple positions away, but very much in striking distance.
Yeah, my memory fails me a little bit in terms of what year it was, but I remember on the front straightaway after a big race where Rob finished on the podium, first podium for Dodge in, I think it was touring car competition. So certainly Road America has some fond memories for him.
That's true for so many racing drivers. Those who have come here and raced here, I think, pretty much all come away with big smiles. It's Alex Welch out in front of this pack in the Audi, a winner at Nashville the last time out in the first race of that weekend, and that's a program that's just getting stronger and stronger. You talked about it some already, Calvin, but good brain trust that Alex has assembled and branching out on his own a little bit after running with GMG for a couple of years.
He just really thought, let's attack this from a slightly different angle rather than being a customer for James Safrona's GMG group. And he and James remain to be very good friends. They won a championship together, in fact. So he just thought, let's take it to the next level, a new discipline in terms of being a team owner. And he just wanted to put together a really good crew. So, you know, he's having fun doing it. And, you know, it's all about personnel. And he went out and said, listen, let's find the best guys I can possibly get. And they're starting to gel. And the results are coming very quickly.
Great battle here. This is for 4th, 5th, and 6th, as you can see on the screen. Running in the GT4 class. Out front in the class, it's still Sean Quinlan over Jason Bell. That was a close call there as Rob Holland, late on the brakes, almost got into the back of Noble just ahead of him.
Yeah, and you know, used his experience there to escape that potential incident. It's a cool little team. This is the same team that Rob ran with back in British touring car competitions. So pretty cool that he's kept his nucleus together. He ran that British Touring Car Championship between years 2012, 2015, came over with that group to run the World Touring Car race at Sonoma, believe it or not, in 2012. So pretty cool. It's all about relationships in this business, and he's got together with a great group, it seems.
And there's a group behind the scenes filming his exploits for an upcoming documentary, so keep your eyes out for that. Here's a change in position. Charlie Luck now up to 3rd overall. Finally got that pass made on Jason Daskalos after giving it a couple of good tries. Not quite sure where he got the move made, but now Charlie Luck's starting to pull away. He's got some work to do, though. 7.3 seconds ahead of him. That's where Memo Gidley runs in 3rd overall.
Yeah, curious to see what sort of pace he can demonstrate now compared to Gidley. It looks like Sofronis is comfortable at the front, but Memo's keeping him honest there, just a 1.5 seconds back. But Charlie Luck's fastest lap so far has been 7/10 off Gidley. Let's see with clean air now on the front end of that Porsche whether he can demonstrate a little bit more pace.
We're not talking about James, who's leading this race overall as a championship contender. He's really picking and choosing his racing at this stage in his career, is very busy, of course, running G&G. But when he shows up, he is a factor. He won overall in the first race at Circuit of the Americas, got 2nd in class the 2nd race there, was a winner overall at Nashville in the first race, had a top 5 in the 2nd, and has the field covered at least for now with a 1.6 second lead over Gidley. Then we fall back to this fight here with Charlie Luck getting around Daskalos, but Jason's not going anywhere. He's putting up a nice fight, trying to stick with that Porsche.
Well, that was demonstrated his pace by the fact that it took Charlie Luck this long to get by him. We're working lap 8 right now, so a long way to go in this race, just getting towards the halfway point. So let's see if Charlie can chase down the leaders or whether Jason can come back at him.
How about this? Noble has made it around Welch in the fight for 4th, so that is a change in position. Noble, not a ton of experience that I can find on the CV to do some Porsche club level racing. Stepping up with Nola Sport, and that is a busy, busy team. If you walk by their tent here in the paddock, they've got, I think, 5 cars that they're running, whether here in GT America powered by AWS or Pirelli GT4 America. Talking to some of the drivers there, they say it's all good. The more cars we can have under the tent, the healthier the team is, and it's good for everyone.
Yeah, they're a top-flight organization, just seem to go from strength to strength, always knocking on the door for championship wins and a ton of race wins behind their name already in the variety of classes that they run here in SRO competition. Just great engineering. Cars always seem to roll off the truck quick and very competitive. Admittedly, not a great track for the Porsches here, but they're doing a great job with it. Whoa, that was late.
Yes, it was.
Wow, that's commitment.
Looked pretty good on the exit. Yeah.
Should he meant to do that or just got away with it?
Well, he certainly got away with it, that's for sure, but maybe starting to feel the heat a little bit. Memo Gidley not disappearing out of the rearview mirror, and there's something to be said, too. A couple of veterans at the front of this field. They know how to take care of their tires, maybe not show their full hand early in the first half of the race, but you can see it on the clock. We're ticking closer to halfway through this 40-minute sprint race. Gidley knows how to get it done. If he's got the car under him, you better bet he'll be on the charge.
Yes, it's really interesting to think about the emotion inside the cockpit and inside the helmet right now for both of these guys. Admittedly, James has been more regular than Memo has in terms of racing in recent years, admittedly now on a more of a part-time basis. He says, like, my customers come first with the GMG racing team, and then if there's the opportunity for me to go out and have a bit of a play without compromising their performance, I'll go and do it. Yet for Memo, he doesn't have a ton of seat time in recent years, so to be thrown in here and looking at the leader just in front of you, how will he handle it? I mean, you'd think with his experience, even though he's got to dig way back into his memory bank for that, he should be able to handle this really nicely and just try and really put on a concerted effort here in the second half of this race. Some of it will come down to who's protected their tires the best. Bentley has typically been very good in terms of that, not really abusing the tires, but the Audi is a very balanced car as well that James is running.
Well, the other factor to keep in mind is with mixed class racing, there will be some out-of-class traffic to contend with as we get closer to the end of the race, and you never know, that can provide the opportunity that you need. If you're the trailing car, the leader just gets held up that little bit, and a veteran like Memo, he knows how to work that traffic. So does James, to be clear, but Memo the one in pursuit right now, and if that opportunity should present itself, he's ready to pounce.
Oh, you bet. He's going to be looking ahead, and certainly his team, Flying Lizard Motorsports. We talk about the combination of them. It's really Flying Lizard Motorsport personnel running the K-Pax team. Jim Huey runs the K-Pax team, but majority of all of that squad come across from the Flying Lizard group. Oh, a little bit of a roadblock there coming out of turn 7. Cost Mamo a couple of tenths maybe.
It's that mixed class racing we're talking about. And did notice a couple shots ago, looming there in the background was Charlie Luck, making some inroads, it seems like, from time to time. Maybe not so much on the last lap, but 8.5 seconds off the race lead, 7.4 behind this Bentley right here, and we'll wait for it. There he is.
Yeah, well, he cut a half a second out of that overall lead on that very last lap, so that was his fastest lap of the race. So he is demonstrating more pace. Now he's escaped the attention of Jason Daskalos, and that's what we suspected. So good patience there by Charlie in terms of he's got the Masters lead, and now he can set sail and see if he can eat into that lead. He's got a big lead to eat into, so I'm not sure if there's enough time on the board left, but he's the fastest man on the track right now.
And the good news for Charlie in terms of the overall championship is the 2 cars ahead of him really aren't 2 that he needs to be concerned with. Neither of them are full season entries, so he is effectively the leader as far as full season GT3 entries are concerned, and therefore should be set to make up ground and build an even bigger gap in the championship.
Yeah, for sure, and you know that John Wright and the whole Wright Motorsports team will be telling him all about that. Very busy times for that team, running in multiple locations and championships on any given race weekend. This is a relatively quiet one. They're just running here, I believe, but back when these guys ran at Nashville, they also had another squad on the road. They had 43 team members, 8 transporters, 6 cars on the road at those 2 different venues. So that's a lot of multitasking for John Wright.
And that's a change in position as Rob Holland has raced his way around Welch to grab 5th in GT4. Now Scott Noble just up the road, who made that pass a few laps ago, becomes his next target. This has been a fun season to watch Rob Holland come back to the States. Like you talked about, he's been racing overseas a lot at the Nürburgring over the last few years, but he's raced just about everything. British Touring Cars and the World Touring Car Championship, like you chronicled. But this was a chance to get back stateside and put this team together. Many of the crew do come over from Europe to help him out, and he's a great personality. I had not met him prior to this season, but always a big smile on his face, enjoying his racing, and the results have been there to match the attitude. Yeah,
very much so. He's a great racer, and you know, probably, I mean, he tried to find new venues and new opportunities globally to continue his racing career, but great to see him back on U.S. soil and competing at the sharp end of the field once again.
A couple of podiums the last time out at Nashville, 2nd and 3rd in those 2 races. It's 2nd in the championship coming in to this weekend, and as you can see on our Race Vision powered by AWS in the carousel, that Ford Mustang is awfully strong. You think of the Mustang as this muscle car, right, with the brute force and raw speed, but it actually corners incredibly well, and you might say that's the strength of the car.
Yeah, very much so. When Multimatic put this program together, I agree with you. Everyone thinks of the stereotype of a Ford Mustang, but talking to drivers who were involved in the testing and development, it was more about the handling, about the braking ability, and all of the things, the attributes that you maybe think of different chassis and different manufacturers giving. Well, that's what the Ford drivers now have with this GT4 Mustang.
He is chasing the GT4 leader right here. Sean Quinlan out in front by 1.7 seconds. For more on Sean's race, let's go down to the pits.
Yeah, guys, I've been watching along this mini battle we have going on with Sean Quinlan and Jason Bell over the last couple of laps. I'm standing by with Stephen Cameron Racing, and I was talking to them. It looks like that Sean can have that advantage in Sector 1 and Sector 3. He's kind of fallen off there by the carousel and the kink, but what they're working with him on are his braking points, making sure as we get further into this race with tire wear that Sean is on it with not braking too late, but being right on it to keep that advantage over the number 2 car.
Watching that car make its way around the track, Cal, what are you picking up from its body language? How do you think it's handling for Sean?
It seems to be okay. I don't see it slipping and sliding yet. I mean, admittedly, we're only 25 minutes into this run. The probably P0s are used to going a full hour in Sprint X competition. So in terms of time management, it shouldn't be a big consideration. But I think the team is spot on. I mean, one thing in terms of, we talked about the learning curve and how far Sean Quinlan has come. There may be some weak spots in his arsenal still. So they may feel, you know what, Sean, don't just think about a breaking point as being cast in stone. As we see an incident here, that's Wilsock in the side of Daskalos. I think that's turn 5. Yeah, climbing the hill to turn 6. So just reminding him, listen, you may have to back up those braking marker points a little bit as you get deeper into this run. Even though the fuel load is burning off, the car's getting lighter. It's more about really managing and you know, thinking about the threshold of the tire and how much grip you've got available later in the run.
We saw the replay a moment ago of the contact between Wilsock and Daskalos, and that did result in a change of position. That was not for class position, but it was for 4th overall. Curious what the stewards will think of that one. But for now, Wilsock in the Flying Lizard Motorsports Porsche is up one more spot as Daskalos slips back to 5th. Both cars, though, now coming into some GT4 traffic.
I love that graphic package on that Flying Lizard Porsche. I mean, they've had that traditional livery, but I love it in those colors. It looks pretty sinister and pretty cool.
There's a mean-looking snake on the side of that car, no question about that, and it's moving very fast at the moment as Wilsock, in his first race back in the series in Circuit of the Americas, looking right at home, running right there, solidly in the top 5, continuing to move forward.
I wonder how Red Mister's on board with Jason Daskalos, having take that little hit there. Maybe looking for the opportunity to repay the favor here if he can get close enough.
And that car has gotten better as the season has gone along too for Jason Daskalos. And I think you got to give credit to Nick Short, who is a longtime entrant in SRO America, formerly Pirelli World Challenge competition, CRP racing. He's been looking after this car as Wilsock goes wide there in turn 5. That might open the door for Daskalos to come back. But with Nick's help, it seems like that car has been more consistent. He's been running at the finish, and the speed has been coming up to boot.
Yeah, as you said, coming off a really nice podium run at Nashville. So that will build a little bit of confidence, even as we said, totally different venue here this weekend at Road America. But Nick Short certainly has a great reputation behind him with CRP Motorsports, so much success in this form of GT3 competition over the years, and just a really good engineer, sharp racing brain.
We've seen him do a lot with very little in previous iterations. Another guy that is kind of known for giving drivers opportunities. He's helped to jumpstart several careers. Michael Cooper's comes to mind, but I think there have been some others along the road as well.
Yes, for sure. Daniel Morad, Mike Skeen, just top-notch pilots. And it's funny when you look back in history and you look at the success of certain teams and then you look at success of certain drivers. Sometimes they cross paths early on.
This still is the battle for 4th. It has not ceased even after Wilsock made that pass. Jason Daskalos trying to find a way back by. Up front, the lead has grown. Safronis to Gidley now 3.4 seconds, but Charlie Luck continues to fly around this track. And here comes Daskalos back by Wilsock. I wonder, yeah.
Did they make him give it?
There looks to be the answer to that question, yes. Incident responsibility.
And I like that call. Rather than sending someone down pit lane, if that is indeed the call, that he's not got to come down pit lane anyway, but reverse the position. If you got it in an ugly way in terms of a bump and run, if there's no damage to either car, then give the position back. Sometimes it's not that easy. By the time the decision's made, sometimes you got other cars sandwiched between them.
I like that as well, and it's a pretty neat, tidy way to settle that dispute, and now they can go back to racing each other hammer and tong once again for the final 10.5 minutes. Safronis now putting a lap on the GT4 leader. He's come through the GT4 field in its entirety now.
It's amazing, isn't it? In 30 minutes, that just showcases how great these GT3 cars in terms of their outright performance here at Road America.
And where do they make it up? Where's the biggest difference for those new to this between GT3 and GT4?
Well, certainly horsepower. Down the long stretches, you're going to get that, but it's really the downforce of the cars. Ton more downforce, so through that big sweep and turn the carousel there, you could see that James was able to just whistle through there, whereas Sean was having to be a lot more patient with his throttle application.
Charlie Luck now having to fight his way through GT4 traffic. This is where discretion is the better part of valor, but it's so difficult to be patient waiting behind a slower class car through a high-speed corner like the kink. But Charlie Luck, very circumspect in his approach, waits patiently, makes the pass. He's been making some inroads on Memo Gindley, but remember, he is already the leader in the Masters class, and Wilczek now is back behind Daskalos, so really there's no threat from Wilczek at this stage as far as that class is concerned. And we already chronicled Charlie Luck's pursuit of the overall championship. He's the leader as far as full season entrants are concerned, so he's already in a great position to make up a lot of points here in the championship today.
Yeah, you're right. He's really narrowed that gap to Gidley there for that overall track position. But that little moment there probably cost him a good half a second to 3/4 of a second. You're at a high-speed part of the racetrack. He had to give quite a bit up through the rolling speed, through the kink there. But he's got a little bit of time to work with. He'll regroup and just focus forward in terms of looking at Memo Gidley as a carrot, the next target.
Daskalos working his way through the lap traffic, same for Wilczek. They're able to clear Jason Bell, among others. It looked like right behind Bell, I thought I saw Rob Holland back there in the Mustang. I'll have to take a look and see if things are closing up in the fight for second, third, and fourth in GT4. This is still a great scrap here between the Audi and the Porsche for fourth and fifth in the overall running order in GT3.
Yep, and here he comes again. Looks like Wilczek's making another bold move down the inside of turn 5. I'm not sure if he pulled it off or if there may have been contact this go around. Pretty late move.
Don't see anything, any signs of anything having gone amiss, so that's a good sign.
I think Wilczek is still behind him. Now Daskalos has got trapped with some traffic. Watch the run that Andy gets right here. Does he thread the needle here? Nice move there by Jason. Oh, that was nearly a touch. Jason was a little bit offline, elected to get on the brake pedal a little bit early there because he was compromised with his line there, and Andy nearly ran over him.
Great job by both of them to avoid any kind of contact in that instance, and they race on.
Fun battle.
Yes.
I mean, hopefully they got big smiles at the end of this one. I don't think Jason should be too upset with the bump and run because he's got the position back.
And don't sleep on Jason Harward either. He's in the brightly colored Lamborghini at the bottom of your screen, and he's putting together one of the more complete runs of his season, slowly but surely reeling in these two. That would be for positions in the GT3 class.
Yeah, we talk about some of the drivers like Jason doing this event to sort of like double the track time to help in the 90-minute format with the GT World Challenge race earlier today, but it also works the other way. He's already been out on the racetrack this afternoon, so he's got the track knowledge in these sort of race conditions compared to these other drivers that are just doing the single event.
Looks like he's about to pass one of the GT4 cars, and then we'll have nothing in between him and the battle ahead between Wilczek and Daskalos. This is the leader in GT4. It is still Sean Quinlan. We drop back a little bit, and there's Jason Bell as he lets the battle for fourth and fifth come through in the second place running G&G Racing Aston Martin GT4 machine.
Really great run here for Jason Bell. Had to give up the lead to the faster BMW of Quinlan, but even so, really good consistent run for Jason.
Oh, look at that shot. We have the potential for some more inclement weather to roll in to the Elkhart Lake area before it's all said and done. It's been popping up all around us all throughout the day, Calvin. So far, it has not affected anything directly. With 5.5 minutes left in this one, I'm not sure it's going to affect this particular race, but it still might. You never know with this place.
No, and it's a big old racetrack. It eats up a lot of territory here, so it will be raining on just one portion of the racetrack and not the other, but just got to hang on now. No one will be diving pit lane for any wet weather tires, even if it comes down, so you just got to look at the sky and hope that it holds on a little bit longer, but this battle is certainly going deep here into this race. Been a great one. Really fascinating battle between these two drivers, doing a great job. Jason there aboard the Audi, swinging out a little bit wider. Jason having a good run here.
The thing I find interesting about the Daskalos-Wilczek battles, we have seen the positions flipped, and Daskalos hung right there with Wilczek when he was in the trailing position.
Big run through the kink.
He might have a chance here.
Yeah.
Takes a peek to the left-hand side of the road.
This is tight. You got to really give each other enough room here. Don't go back online, Jason Daskalos. He doesn't. tucks it in tight and early, but this has given Harwood a bit of a run behind these drivers.
Yeah, Jason Harwood is there licking his chops watching these two fight. That Lamborghini appears to be the faster of these three cars. Here is Harwood, headlights blaring. He's closed into the back, nearly went off-roading there in turn 14.
Yeah, really widening that turn-in point and the radius through that final corner, and that's what Wilzog is doing through the King. Wilzog runs that Porsche, very compliant, running that outside curb on the left side as you turn in there, and that's giving him a big wide radius and a big run on Daskalos as they head down the kettle bottoms into turn 12.
Taking a peek to the inside again, Wilzog, but not close enough to make the move. Daskalos able to chop off the nose just a little bit. Nothing untoward about that maneuver. Here comes Harwood, though, taking a peek to the inside, squirming on the brakes. Jason Harwood in the SRO Motorsports Lamborghini, trying to charge his way forward after a string of disappointing results. No finish better than 5th in the last 4 races. He can sense there's a chance here in the final 4 minutes of this race to get that kind of turnaround result that could reinvigorate his season.
Yeah, Harwood started the year with 3 podium runs in a row and hasn't been on the podium since, so he's looking for a little bit more. Looks very strong here this weekend, and certainly this has helped Daskalos, because suddenly Wilzog has got the full attention of Harwood right behind him.
Toughest spot to be in is right in the middle of a battle like this, right? Because you're trying to be aggressive on one hand. Oh!
Little twitch there right at apex. Had to open up his hands a little bit, and that took him off the road, it looked like. Just caught a little bobbler, looked like, right at the apex of turn 7.
Well, he got away with that one. That could have been a scary moment. I'm sure it was plenty scary as it was, but that now turns Wilzog loose to be the aggressor once again. He doesn't have to think about playing defense.
See that? I ain't sure if he got a little bit wide, but suddenly there's a little twitch there. Had to straighten up and correct, and that just means you're running out of real estate there on the racetrack.
To reel it back in, though, that's the good news, and he races on, although with just 2 minutes and change left, I'm not sure he's going to get back into this fight. Should update you on what's going on at the front of the field. It's still Sofronis over Gidley by 7.6 seconds now. Charlie Luck has closed to within 4.5 seconds of Gidley, but not close enough to do anything about it just yet. Then you get to the Daskalos-Wilzog battle. In GT4, it's still Sean Quinlan, 2.5 seconds over Jason Bell. Chris Cognazzi, another 2.2 seconds back in 3rd. Then Scott Noble, Rob Holland currently running in 5th in GT4.
Yeah, Sofronis has just been super consistent here today. Just really great performance. Car seems to be working well. Don't see it twitching any. Had that big bold move down to the inside of some traffic in turn 5 there that looked a little bit desperate, but he still managed to scramble through the corner without running wide. Maybe he's probably learned a lot here today about what this Bentley performs like on a long run. Certainly we had some inclement weather over the course of the test day here yesterday in the practice session, so good for him. I know they tested here recently, so I'm sure he's got in the groove somewhat, but there's nothing like race conditions to truly tell you what the car is going to do when you put in the hammer down.
And as many different things as Memo has driven, from Indy cars to prototypes to some other GT cars, I'm not sure there's much that can prepare you for driving the big old Bentley, which in addition to its big frame, it's also right-hand drive, so it's a very different perspective inside the cockpit.
It is, and I know when you get in something that's so different as that, it's very different to look through a corner and not be able to feel that apex. But, you know, you get used to it pretty quickly. Drivers are pretty adaptable, and I'm sure for someone of Memo's experience, everything is a new sensation with this big GT car, but I'm sure by this stage he's gotten used to that aspect of it. But I think he'll just be fine-tuning that car tonight, working with his engineers, working with the Flying Lizard team, looking at their notebook in terms of what the car has done before here, and looking at the clock here, looks like James is going to have to do one more lap to bring home this win tonight.
Charlie Luck will love that news. He has been flying over the last several laps. He's been the fastest car on the track. He just took out about another second on Memo Gidley on that previous lap. I'm not sure he's close enough. Time is his enemy at this stage, but that is a fast Porsche running 3rd overall and leading the Masters class. And it's been a masterful drive for James Sofronis, who has led this thing from the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, Memo kept him honest there, kept within a couple of seconds for half the race, and then started to fall back a little bit. Charlie Luck, once he cleared Daskalos, has just taken off and just put in another tremendous performance. I mean, he is really performing at a tremendous level right now, and it's fun to watch someone at his stage of his career and age in life to be running this well.
Sean Quinlan has been in control for much of this race. Got to remember, though, at the start, Jason Bell did get the jump, and he led in GT4 early on. Had the good duel with Quinlan. Sean came out on top in that, going back towards the beginning of the event. But these two have been super consistent all race long, and although it's not that win that Jason Bell was looking for, a nice, solid, consistent run, if he can bring it home in this final lap, that is going to make Andrew Davis, his driver coach and co-driver in Pirelli GT4 America, very, very happy.
Yeah, Cagnazzi, that was really closed in on Jason Bell, so these are the moments that Jason Bell needs to be able to handle, not crack under this pressure, just bring it home, one more lap, hit your marks. We've been doing it all day long, just execute this final lap.
Chris Cagnazzi started that car in third. That's where he runs at the moment. Dropped back some at the start of the race, but has been doing a nice job of recovery. Is that Daskalos?
It is.
Oh, on the last lap, Jason Daskalos, something has gone wrong in that Audi. He is off the pace, had been running fourth overall, and also in the overall category that he races in. That now brings this battle to the fore, with Wilczek trying to hold off Jason Harwood.
Yes, so great battle, but different players right now. Let's see what Harwood can do here on this final lap. Really got one legit opportunity.
It's probably in that run into 14 and then the drag race up the straightaway here. That's where we find James Safronis headed for his third win of the season. James Safronis across the line, GMG back in victory lane at Road America. Memo Gidley crosses the line in second. Charlie Luck made some inroads, but ultimately comes home in third. Now we go back to this battle. Jason Harwood gets the run out of turn 14. It's drag race time here at Road America. Wilczek in the Porsche. Harwood in the Lamborghini. Up the hill they come and give the spot to Andy Wilczek, who holds on for second in class, fourth overall. Jason Harwood brings it home with a nice solid run to fifth, and look behind Sean Quinlan. The pass has been made. Chris Cagnazzi has gotten around Jason Bell for second.
He has, so I'm not sure where Jason gave out that position. Final lap, he'll be kicking himself for that one, but still a great drive. But up front, Sean Quinlan, great patience at the beginning of the race. They haven't lost the lead on the initial start.
Sean Quinlan, the points leader, will extend the championship lead with victory in race one of the weekend at Road America. Chris Cagnazzi, last lap pass, moves him up to second in GT4, and another strong podium run for Jason Bell for GMG. Comes home in third.
Pretty good day for GMG with James taking the overall win and Jason on the GT4 podium. Let's take a look at how that pass took place. See Daskalos there wounded on the side of the road, down into turn 5. Jason just got in there a little bit too deep. Looks like the car went numb on him, probably into the ABS, and those are those moments that he just made a little mistake there, unfortunately, and gave up that position. But it's all about the learning curve, and not a big mistake, but just enough to allow Chris through.
Heartbreaking for Jason Daskalos. He was putting together a fine performance today, and if James Safronis had just crossed the line a little bit earlier, they wouldn't have needed that extra lap. Of course, then maybe this problem manifests itself at the start of the race tomorrow. But in any event, not the result that Jason was looking for, and you hate to see that after a really well-judged race.
It was, and it was a fun battle. I'm sure Andy Wilczek will be chuffed to get that position, and he had a great fun with the two Jasons.
And the good news is the weather held off, at least for now, but you can see the next race and the final race on the schedule here for Saturday at Road America. TC America up next. I have to dodge some rainstorms. We shall see. But for now, the focus is on GT America, powered by AWS. And James Safronis, a couple of years ago, he told me, I think I'm going to hang up the helmet. I'm going to concentrate on running this race team, this prep shop that they've got out in California. And however many race wins it's been, and a championship later, he's still at it, and just as fast as he's ever been.
Yep, he hasn't lost his touch, that's for sure. Solid run, pole position, led early, felt the heat from Memo, didn't crack, and Just really, really super consistent lap times. He'll be happy.
27 years of racing in this paddock for James Sofronis. Also sets the Crown Strike fastest lap of the race at 2:10.994. He can pick and choose where he wants to run at this stage in his career, and this is a favorite for him. You see Joe Foster, who really helps to manage that team in a lot of respects. James' right-hand man, he was there leaning in to chat with him, putting the water bottle up on the roof as we take a look at the results. Sofronis from Gidley, from Luck, the top three. Luck the winner in the Masters class.
Yeah, great performances throughout this field here today. Some great little battles going on, even if it wasn't always for the same class. But that's what's cool about this championship. 40-minute race, run flat out. Probably P0s are up to that. Don't really have to factor in tire degradation too much under this sprint race format. And there's a battle somewhere. You're going to have some fun, that's for sure.
Now we saw that throughout the course of the broadcast. Hopefully you folks enjoyed that at home. Now we get towards the bottom of the finishing order. Some of those that did not have the kind of days they were hoping to have today. But on the other end of the spectrum is James Sofronis, and he's with Amanda.
And he came out of his car with thumbs up saying, "That feels good." Well, James, you get the win here today. You started from the pole position, pick up the win. Drivers keep talking about how much fun it is here. What did you enjoy about that ride?
Well, my first pro race here was in 1994. I rented a car for like $1,500 with Chuck Hemmingson and touring car. It was like all the savings I had because I knew I wanted to try this. And obviously Road America is the best track in North America. So it holds a special place for me for sure. You know, green flag race, that's awesome. I kept saying, James, you're on the treadmill earlier this week. You better make that pay off and finish. So, you know, hi to my family, Nargis, Chloe, and Jensen, who's racing right now. It's the first time he's racing without me, so hopefully I inspired you, buddy, and the whole GMG crew. And then racing with Jason Bell and Kyle is an absolute blast. So the camaraderie, the competition, the cars, sprint racing, I pushed the whole way. I didn't care if Memo was 3 seconds, 5 seconds back, I pushed to see what the car could do and as well what I could do. So the Audi was great. Joe's always been my right-hand man, helping me with all the non-racing activities, so makes my job a little easier. So I'm going to definitely enjoy this one. So
Congratulations.
I hope someone from the series hit record on that, because that is the perfect advertisement for what GT America is all about.
Yeah, it really is. He's loving life, great family man, and just runs a superb operation. Just broke ground, I believe, on a new workshop over at Thermal, and just continuing to build his brand and do a great job. He really makes his customers his #1 priority, but when he gets behind the wheel, as Mamo congratulates him on a good little battle today, he always gives it 100%.
A lot of mutual respect right there. More happy winners are down with Amanda.
With the races in Nashville, GT America is now in the back half of their season. And when you look at where you are currently, is there improvements that you're looking for as you head to the back half of this season?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you're constantly working on yourself, your concentration, your driving craft, and the car. And we tested here, and so it's a constant refinement, and that's what makes it fun. I mean, this sport is so daggone fun. It's crazy.
Congratulations, Charlie.
Thank you.
Not a bad advertisement there either from Charlie Luck, who's been a revelation this season, has been doing some single-make Porsche racing over the last few years. Had an earlier career. This is really a second racing career, because he raced in the NASCAR Busch Series back in the day, in the 80s, as a matter of fact. So long ago, he was racing an Oldsmobile, to give you some idea. Speaking of which, that car that James Sofronis rented back in 1994, also an Oldsmobile. Go figure. Something called an Oldsmobile Achieva, as it turned out. Anyway, back down to pit lane. Let's hear from our GT4 winner, and Amanda.
Well, there were parts of that race where you and Jason Bell were making it really exciting for us. I talked to your team during that race. They said they were working with you on brake points.
Yes.
What do you feel won this race?
Yeah, I think the brake points were a big part of the success here, and the brakes were slowly going away as the tires went and everything got a bit hot, but I was focused and kept a little bit of a distance, so it was a lot of fun. It started to give me a little bit of a nervousness at the end, but it was okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell everyone's a little out of breath,
Yes.
Brian. I mean, we didn't really talk too much about it. It's a pretty toasty day. A little bit of cloud cover coming in there towards the end, but it's 90-degree ambient, and cockpit temperatures will swell, and big test for these drivers.
Plenty of highlights from today's race. James Safronis led the field to green. Memo Ginley started on his outside, but quickly tucked back in line. And this is how the field of GT3 and GT4 cars made their way through turn 1.
Bit of a moment here, late move down at the inside there in contact between two of the cars. Not sure how it developed, but certainly a late move. And this was one in traffic here. I think James Safronis was initially thinking, I'll just brake behind this car, and realized he's going to run right over the top of him, so got away with that one.
This was an interesting moment. Andy Wilzon working on Jason Daskelos there. That contact was reviewed by race control. They ultimately had Andy give that spot back up. They continued to fight, and it brought Jason Harward into the mix until that moment just a few seconds ago.
Yeah, he had a big moment there, had to regroup and settle back in here. And then unfortunately for Daskelos, something went awry there on that final lap and allowed the other two to charge out for that final podium run.
That's a change of position in GT4 for second in that class. James Safronis wins overall.